In the world of hip-hop, Ice Cube is often remembered for his powerful lyrics and political commentary, but behind the mic was a man who had truly lived the life many only rapped about. Long before platinum records and Hollywood deals, Cube's name carried weight in the streets. And on one particular night, even the infamous Suge Knight would find out just how serious Ice Cube could be.
Did you really see Suge and Ice Cube fight?
Also, I see a ruckus, and I just see, Cube's throwing his fists. He wasn't punking out at all.
Once known as the most feared figure in the music industry, Suge Knight intimidated nearly everyone in his path. But Ice Cube, he didn't flinch. Witnesses say the two clashed during an industry event, and despite Suge's reputation and imposing presence, Cube stood his ground. According to DJ Premier, fists flew, and Cube didn't back down for a second.
If he didn't know he got poked, then the conspiracy lives on.
Would you put it past?
I don't put it past nobody.
This wasn't a rapper playing tough. This was Ice Cube showing the world he was never just an act. Coming up in South Central Los Angeles, Cube had seen it all and lived to tell it. And Suge Knight, the so-called boogeyman of hip-hop, had just met someone who refused to be scared. Ice Cube's reputation wasn't built in a studio. It was forged in real-life moments that could have ended in tragedy. One such moment revealed just how deep his ties to the street ran. According to Cube, a neighborhood man, strung out on drugs, once conned his mother out of $20.
Was heavy on drugs, went around to my house and gave my mother some cockamamie story, so she gave him $20.
That may seem small to some, but to Cube, it was a personal violation. Enraged, he and a close friend grabbed firearms and set out to confront the man. Their intent was clear, revenge. But fate intervened. The man wasn't home, and the would-be confrontation never took place.
And I was so mad. You violated me and my family. Me and my friends was going around the corner to kill him. And he wasn't home, so thank God.
In hindsight, Cube calls it divine intervention. He admits that if the man had answered that door, he wouldn't be here today.
We were young and we was mad and we had a weapon and it was gonna happen, so it would have been stupid, and I wouldn't be sitting here if it did happen.
That moment of pause, however unplanned, became a turning point. It's a chilling reminder that Ice Cube didn't just write about street justice, he nearly lived out its most dangerous form. The only thing that stopped him from crossing that line was timing, and perhaps a higher power. For many young men raised in rough neighborhoods, the streets become their only teacher. But in Ice Cube's case, there was another force at work, his father. Unlike some of his peers who lacked guidance at home, Cube grew up with a strong father figure who helped instill values, structure, and a sense of direction. In interviews, Cube has credited his dad not just with keeping him grounded, but with giving him the clarity to see beyond the chaos of South Central Los Angeles. Cube described his neighborhood as tough, but made it clear that nobody was tougher than his father. That presence created a sense of security, a rare shield in a place where danger often lurked around every corner. While other young men were swept up into gangs or criminal lifestyles without a second thought, Cube had someone in his life pushing him towards something better, and when the door to music opened, he was ready to walk through it. But don't mistake guidance for softness. Just because Cube found a path out, it didn't mean he forgot where he came from or lost his edge. That same street-smart intensity followed him into the industry and quickly set him apart. While some questioned his authenticity, those who knew his past understood the truth. Cube was never pretending. He was simply one of the few who made it out alive and intact. It was that balance of discipline at home and grit in the streets that made Ice Cube a different breed. And it would be that same foundation that helped him stand toe-to-toe with some of the most feared figures in hip-hop. Suge Knight's name once sent shockwaves through the music industry. As the CEO of Death Row Records, his reputation for violence, intimidation, and extortion was nearly unmatched.
Suge Knight is a mythical figure.
The controversial CEO of Death Row Records,
the most feared figure in all of hip-hop.
His size was intimidating.
Knight had been on probation for a 1992 assault on 2 aspiring rappers.
Artists didn't just respect Suge, they feared him. Tales of his aggressive tactics, from shaking down executives to surrounding himself with real-life gangsters, painted him as hip-hop's most dangerous man.
They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified of Suge Knight.
Right.
I mean, terrified.
I know.
No. to death.
But for Ice Cube, that fear never existed. While many in the industry bent under Suge's pressure, Cube held his ground. DJ Premier recounted a tense moment that took place shortly after Cube's departure from NWA, a time when Suge's influence was rapidly rising. According to Premier, a scuffle broke out at an industry event, and in the middle of the chaos, there was Ice Cube, throwing punches, refusing to back down. It was a rare sight. Suge Knight, the so-called boogeyman of rap, had finally run into someone who didn't flinch. Cube wasn't intimidated by Suge's size, his crew, or his violent reputation. Instead, he met aggression with aggression, showing the same resolve that had carried him through South Central's toughest blocks. This moment wasn't just about pride, it was a message to the entire industry. Ice Cube wasn't another rapper to be bullied or silenced. He was built from something different. And even in the face of hip-hop's most feared figure, he proved that real respect isn't given, it's earned, and sometimes it's fought for. While Ice Cube was cementing his solo legacy after parting ways with NWA, new rivalries emerged, and some quickly turned physical. One of the most notable was his clash with Pomona-based rap group Above the Law. The tension stemmed from Cube's departure and the perception that he was a studio gangster. Group member Cold 187, also known as Big Hutch, publicly questioned Cube's street credentials, calling him a college kid playing tough through his pen. That jab didn't sit well with Cube. Things came to a head in April 1990 during the New Music Seminar in New York, but the first real confrontation happened earlier that month at the Anaheim Celebrity Theater. According to Cold 187, Cube confronted him backstage, and what began as a war of words quickly escalated into fists. Hutch claimed he hit Cube with a two-piece combo that sent him stumbling, but even he admitted Cube didn't back down. The hostility reignited at the seminar. Cube arrived with his newly formed crew, the Lynch Mob, a mix of activists and street enforcers. When the two groups crossed paths again at the Marriott Marquis Hotel, the result was pure chaos. A massive brawl broke out, tearing up an entire floor. Cube wasn't even present during the melee, but his crew made it clear any disrespect wouldn't go unanswered. This wasn't just rap beef. It was personal, physical, and public. Through every scuffle, Cube's message stayed consistent. He wasn't just rhyming about toughness, he lived it. By the mid-90s, Ice Cube had already proven himself as a dominant voice on the West Coast, but not everyone was impressed. In 1994, Chicago rapper Common released a track that would spark one of the most intellectually charged beefs in hip-hop history. The song, I Used to Love H.E.R., used a metaphor of a woman to represent the evolution of hip-hop, suggesting that the genre had lost its soul and become too commercial and violent. While many applauded the track's lyricism, Ice Cube took it personally. To Cube, the message felt like a direct shot at West Coast rap, a dismissal of the scene he helped build. Through King T, word got back that Cube had fired back on a track titled West Side Slaughterhouse, alongside WC and Mac 10. Common, now fully aware of the diss, didn't hesitate to respond. His track The Bitch in You was a scathing, surgical rebuttal, calling Cube out for hypocrisy and cultural betrayal. He accused Cube of going from gangsta to Islam to the D of D's effect, mocking the shifting image and motivations of the West Coast icon. What followed was tension that could have exploded, but fate had other plans. In 1997, just weeks after Biggie's death and months after Tupac's, Minister Louis Farrakhan invited both rappers to a peace summit in Chicago. There, Common and Cube faced each other not as enemies, but as leaders in a fractured genre. Cube had a diss track ready, but never released it. The message had changed. Peace over pride, unity over ego. Before Ice Cube became a solo powerhouse, his fallout with NWA ignited one of the most iconic and bitter feuds in hip-hop history. After leaving the group in 1989 over financial disputes, Cube didn't just walk away quietly. NWA fired back with diss tracks like 100 Miles and Runnin', mocking his departure and questioning his loyalty. But the drama didn't stay confined to music. TV host Dee Barnes, known for covering hip-hop on Pump It Up, found herself caught in the crossfire. When a segment aired showing Cube mocking NWA, juxtaposed with footage of the group dissing him, tempers boiled over. At a Def Jam party, a drunken Dr. Dre brutally assaulted Barnes in retaliation for what he believed was her role in escalating the feud. He slammed her against a wall, kicked her, and even tried to throw her downstairs, all while his bodyguard kept others from stepping in. The attack was horrifying, and Dre showed no remorse. What began as a lyrical war had now turned violent, leaving a stain on the culture that couldn't be ignored. Ice Cube's feud with Cypress Hill would become another explosive chapter in his long list of industry conflicts. It began with the Friday movie soundtrack. Cypress Hill contributed a track, but during a studio session, Cube heard their unreleased single, Throw Your Set in the Air, and wanted it for the film. The group declined, politely but firmly. Weeks later, they were stunned to hear a Cube track with a nearly identical hook. Feeling betrayed, Cypress Hill released a brutal diss track, No Rest for the Wicked, accusing Cube of biting their sound. Tensions escalated, dividing fans and raising stakes across the LA rap scene. Cube initially denied wrongdoing, calling it a misunderstanding, but Cypress Hill wasn't buying it. The beef intensified further when Cube invited group member B Real to the studio, only for him to catch Cube using more lyrics that felt lifted from their work. That moment confirmed what they suspected. This wasn't just business, it was personal, and it wasn't over. As tensions with Cypress Hill boiled, Ice Cube found himself in yet another confrontation, this time with LA rappers Cam and Solo. What began as a behind-the-scenes business dispute quickly turned physical. According to Solo, the encounter happened at a traffic light in Los Angeles. Words were exchanged, and soon fists were flying. Solo claimed he got the best of Cube in the fight, and somehow, Cube's chain ended up in his possession. Rather than stay silent, Solo made a bold move. He took the chain to a Cypress Hill concert at the House of Blues, holding it up in front of a roaring crowd. The moment, captured in a now infamous photo, sent a clear message. Ice Cube had been touched. In an era where image and respect meant everything, this was more than a scuffle. It was a public power move. Despite the theatrics, the feud would eventually be squashed. But the incident served as another reminder. Whether in the studio or the streets, Ice Cube's name stayed in the middle of controversy. Throughout his career, Ice Cube has worn many hats: rapper, writer, actor, activist. But one thing has remained constant: his refusal to be disrespected. From lyrical wars to real-life altercations, Cube's name has become synonymous with standing firm in the face of conflict. Whether he was battling NWA, going head-to-head with Suge Knight, clashing with Common, or exchanging diss tracks with Cypress Hill, Cube never folded. His confrontations weren't for publicity. They were personal, rooted in pride, loyalty, and a deep belief in defending his name. While many artists crumbled under industry pressure or retreated from drama, Ice Cube leaned into it. He didn't just survive the chaos of 1990s hip-hop, he thrived in it. From brawls backstage to standoffs in hotel hallways, Cube's presence commanded respect. And as time passed, that respect only deepened. Not because he was the loudest or the flashiest, but because he was authentic. Ice Cube didn't build a legacy on gimmicks. He built it on truth, grit, and the kind of backbone that can't be faked. Even now, decades later, Cube remains one of the most respected voices in the culture, not just for what he said on the mic, but for what he stood for off it. The streets didn't make him, they tested him, and Ice Cube passed every test with his fists, his pen, and his presence. That's all for today. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into hip-hop history.